So to continue a conversation from our previous video about why I don't hire drivers for these trucks and send them to work so that they're actually all out earning money instead of sitting in my yard, let's get into it. And also, as this is a perfect shot right here of when I say this truck is a really big truck, you can see it is a really big truck. So I have my heavy haul tractor with its matching low bed right there. It is hooked to the true hitch right now. For those that have asked, yes, this truck can absolutely run the true hitch and would be the far better truck for it than that one over there. We have my tandem axle NRC 40 TV rollback sitting here, which is right now going through the process of being sold. Sale is pending at the moment. Hopefully find out more about that in a couple days. And then we have my 2016 Western Star with the Zacklift on the back, set up as a 30-ton heavy wrecker that is completely detachable. And this can also be a normal fifth wheel truck. You see the fifth wheel hidden under there. It can go hook onto any trailer just like any other truck can. This is a very, very versatile fleet that can do a variety of different jobs very, very well. It's kind of set up for a little bit of everything right here. And that is very much by design, which is why getting back into the heavy truck world, I explained some of in the previous video about how I kind of had to restart the whole heavy towing, trucking, hauling business. This is the truck that restarted it. And the reason for going with this truck right here is it could do all of it to a certain degree. With the bed right here, you can haul equipment, machines, vehicles, all kinds of stuff on the bed. And with the underreach on the back here, you could also take on heavy tow jobs and tow tractor trailers with it, just like this one can, just not quite to the extent that this one can, but you can still do heavy towing just the same. Oh, and to like not drag out this whole thing and make you wait to the end to answer the question, why not just put drivers in all these trucks, send them to work? Because you can't do work that doesn't exist. That actually I should have explained in the beginning, because that explains why starting out with this truck and not a full-on heavy wrecker, getting back into the heavy truck world, was this truck can do a variety of things. It can do so much different stuff, and as one guy with one truck, this was the truck I could leave the yard with, and no matter what call came in, whether it was towing a Honda Civic, I could throw it on the deck and tow it. Granted, way overkill for doing it, but it can do it. Or I get called to tow a tractor trailer. This truck can do it. Get called to move a backhoe or a man lift. This truck could do it. It was kind of the no matter what call came in, I could be out and about in this truck, and this truck could go do it. But obviously this truck does have its limitations as far as what it can do in either one of those categories. When it comes to equipment hauling, clearly a rollback is not going to haul the same equipment as a heavy haul low bed tractor will. And towing wise, it actually is pretty close to as capable as this here, but when it gets into recovery, to then tow and all that type of stuff, one single winch off a deck and a fair lead back here is clearly not going to do what a twin line 30-ton boom is going to do. So it is an incredibly versatile truck within its world of capabilities. So this truck is what got me back off the ground and back into the heavy towing, trucking, hauling world. But as I said, you can't do work that doesn't exist. And the reason all these trucks don't have drivers in them, just send out to work every day, is there is simply not the work to do that in the heavy towing world in the area I live in. See, a lot of you guys that watch this like towing and recovery YouTube channel stuff that's more towards the heavy side of things. You watch channels like mine, you watch Pepe's Towing, Murphy's Diesel, Ron Pratt, stuff like that. And the huge difference in me and all three of those guys is I don't live where there's a lot of trucks running around, and definitely not in a main through route that trucks use to transport stuff across the country. Pepe's in LA, obviously right down there by the ports and the actual just like hub of every bit of trucking everywhere. Yeah, they got trucks running around all over the place. Very, very heavy truck traffic area. Murphy's Diesel on I-40 in Arizona, the main trucking route across the U.S. on the southern portion of the country. And you got Ron Pratt out there in Missouri, again, the crossroads of all these major interstate arteries that trucks use. That's why those guys are so busy and can have dedicated wreckers that run full-time as dedicated wreckers. And they can put drivers in those trucks and send them to work because there's work all day long. But you see Pepe's doing, those guys do 3 to 4 rollovers a day. In our area around here, I cannot tell you the last time there was a truck rollover accident. Oh, I can actually, that I know of. There might have been somebody that I haven't heard of, but Halloween actually. This is almost into February. Halloween is the last one I know of in our area right here, and it was actually a truckload of honey that rolled over in a roundabout just down the road here and spilled its entire load there. And while that happened, we actually had this truck at a trunk or treat Halloween event, all dressed up and all that. So Consolidated went and did that recovery. I'm sure it was a sticky mess. I'm kind of not too sad about not being called into that one, but either way, I wouldn't have gotten called for it because I'm not any of the state or county rotations for towing. I have no desire to be at all. So that recovery back in, that rollover back in October is the last rollover accident I know of heavy trucks in our area right here. So the only time we really have consistent work for the heavy trucks is during the wintertime when it's icy and slick and trucks are sliding off the road in the ditch or getting stuck. This year, as you can see by the fact that everything is dry, we've gotten hardly any snow at all. So that's been very, very slow. I've only done a very few winch outs with this truck. One you'll see probably in the next video after this, one of a Walmart truck that was stuck in some ice. It wasn't even anything that bad. Very, very little. Even the off-road recovery has very, very few calls. You've seen everything I've done this entire season when it comes to off-road recovery. And I would say only one of them was actually anything out off-road. The one up by Mount Hood. The other was like a paved road where the car hauler was stuck, and then the Tesla as well. They were on a paved road. It was not an off-road recovery. It was just a snowy road recovery. So in this area, if it's not snowing and icy roads, these trucks are dead. They don't have anything to do. Which is why when it was time to step up from this back into something bigger in the towing world, I went with the Zacklift detachable setup so that this truck was not committed to this setup and stuck with it. Otherwise, there'd be no way affording this truck would make any sense when this thing would literally sit in the yard for a month at a time, weeks at the very least, with absolutely nothing to do. Here's an example. Perfect. See how this thing's like bent down right here? It looks like, this is actually a comment I got in a couple of videos now. Why does it look like the truck is sagging in the middle and the frame's broken? Well, the frame is dead straight. This is an air ride cab that has a hinge right here and airbags in the back that it floats on. And as you can see right now, way up in there, those airbags are flat, and this is all dropped down to the chassis. That's why the cab looks like this. That's why you see it's got this big gap at the top right there. When those airbags air up and bring the cab up level, all that closes up and it looks nice and straight. The fact that those are dumped down and it looks like this lets you know that this truck has been sitting a while, because this truck will sit here with the cab aired up for 2-3 days usually before it'll bleed off enough air to drop the cab down. So you see it looking like this a lot in my videos in the background when I'm doing something else, and that lets you know that it's been sitting a while. So that's a good indicator of how little work there actually is for something like this. Is this truck's always sitting here deflated on air because it's been sitting for 3 days, 4 days, a week or two sometimes. But with it being a Zacklift that is completely detachable, I have the full capabilities of a 30-ton heavy wrecker for when those calls come in. And in 10 minutes, I pop this all off the back, go hook to my low bed, and I can go haul equipment, stuff like that on the low bed, or go hook to my flatbed over there and haul flatbed materials as well. That is why I was able to go to another big truck and get back towards the fifth wheel side of things, which actually has a lot more work and a lot steadier work in it than heavy towing does in our local area here. So here in Central Oregon, when it comes to heavy towing, there is myself and there's Consolidated Towing, who's also here in Bend. They have, I believe, 4 big wreckers. They're all dedicated full-time wreckers. And like me, in the wintertime, when the snow and ice is here, they can't keep up. They're way too busy, cannot keep up. But as soon as that snow goes away, all their trucks are lined up sitting in the yard, just like mine. Difference is they have a very large light duty and medium duty towing company as well, that stuff stays pretty steady for most of the year. So they can afford to have those trucks sit a bit because those big trucks are a small part of their much, much bigger company. We're the only ones in this area for heavy stuff. So in the winter, people call, and both of us, usually someone will call me and like, need a heavy tow, and I'm busy and backed up. I say, hey, try Consolidated Towing. That might be able to get to you quicker. And they say, yeah, Consolidated's who told us to call you because they're busy. So In the winter, neither one of us can keep up. In the summer, neither one of us can find enough to do. That is the problem with this area, and where the beauty of that detachable setup comes in is because I can drop that off in the summertime and stick this truck mostly to a low bed where it can actually keep some steady work going. Now, could I sign up for the police rotations and all that stuff to then try to get more of the heavy work when those accidents or stuck or broke down trucks on the highways do come in? Well, technically, no, I can't right now. I don't qualify. I would need more drivers because you have to have 2 of whatever class you're signing up for. And actually, no, I don't think I can anyway because I only got 1 of these. So no, I couldn't. I don't qualify for it. I don't have enough wreckers. I don't have enough drivers. And I don't have a public location with a secured storage lot and office hours and all that stuff that you have to have. So no, I couldn't sign up for that unless I spent a whole pile of money on all that stuff that I'm not going to do because it's simply, there's not enough work to justify it. And I don't want to go compete with the other towing company anyway. They're long-standing company here. It's been absolutely great to work with. We send each other working calls back and forth and referrals, and super cool company, super great to work with. No desire to compete with them. They've got their thing they do. I've got my thing I do. And where those cross over between us, we work together really, really well, and it works out great for both of us. And here's one little tip for people that think just because someone else in your area is the same business as you, that they're your competition. No. Your competition is your biggest asset. Remember that. Your competition can be your absolute biggest asset. And in this industry, in this area, those guys are absolutely my biggest asset. So this truck did a whole lot of fifth wheel work over the summer, most of it with the low bed. That's what kept it busy enough to make it a viable asset to make an investment in and make this whole deal make sense. This truck had its issue with the ECM and the whole dealer didn't know what was going on, problem like that, where it kind of disappeared for most of the year, which that's another reason of selling this truck is the fact that it was gone for 8 months over something so stupid. But either way, the fact that it was gone for 8 months just proved that I can get by just fine without it with a setup like this that is so versatile. So yeah, there's not enough work to justify this truck full time with a driver in it going to work and all that. Totally get that. But then what you probably don't understand is where does the beast come in if there's not enough work for even that truck? Well, there is enough work for that truck as a fifth wheel tractor. This truck here takes the fifth wheel tractor capabilities to a whole nother level that you're going to see a few videos from now, probably 4 or 5 videos from now, that this truck will take that fifth wheel tractor capability just to a whole nother level, if you get what I'm saying. But that truck there has proved that there is the market for the fifth wheel work, and it will stay doing what it's doing as well. For now, it'll mainly just stay as the wrecker full time. Well, this one does all the fifth wheel work, and as this one hopefully builds up with the new parts to it that are coming, and builds up a bigger customer base in that, this one gets so busy that it does justify a full-time driver, either in this one doing this work, not the true hitch work, but low bed work, or a full-time driver in that one that goes back and forth between the heavy tow and dropping that off and pulling the low bed just like it's done all this time before this truck showed up. So this truck here is going to work in a completely different side of the business, heavy haul side, strictly side of the business, except for that true hitch thing, because that's a very specialized type of deal. It will run that. This one's going to stay where it is, and eventually, yeah, hopefully it gets to where they're both busy enough that a driver can go in one, I can run the other. This truck is going to be on the other side of the country, hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, and everybody going to be happy. But in the meantime, does it make sense for me to have this one and that one when we're not at that point yet? And yes, it does make financial sense, because this one can do a lot of jobs with a low bed. Not that particular bed I have, but like I said, more stuff is coming. It can do a lot more stuff and is a lot more capable in that world than this one is, meaning I can build up that business better, faster, and more into where I want to be. And no, this truck is not capable of running the Zacklift and eliminating that truck over there and just swapping it over, because the wheelbase is far, far too short. And no, I'm not going to extend it, because then it makes this truck worthless as a heavy haul tractor, because you wouldn't be able to get your gooseneck up far enough to fully load that front axle with weight, and therefore maximize the amount of loads you can scale and carry legally on your trailer back there. So this truck is going to stay exactly as it is. No, it cannot run the Zacklift. That's why that truck over there still makes sense to be the Zacklift truck. So it doesn't make sense to keep operating only this one as both when this truck will not let me do what I want to do with this truck in the next phase of where this business is going. So that spec of truck is completely necessary for what we're doing. And obviously this one is still necessary in order to run this. And the other thing is, even though this truck can swap back and forth between fifth wheel and wrecker, there have been quite a few times where it's been in the evening, I've got a truck or load hooked up to the back of this, ready to go somewhere the next day on a haul. And then I get a call for something that needs the low bed for a quick little move. Well, yes, you can change it around, but I'm not gonna unhook a tractor trailer off the back, then pull off of this, then go hook to the low bed to go do a quick little move that's just hop around town real quick, come back, reattach all this, rehook up with everything you're doing. It's possible to do, but 9 times out of 10, I'm just gonna tell the person, sorry, I can't, don't have a truck available. Where now, yeah, I can just go hop in this and go do it real quick and come back, and this thing's still ready to go for the next day's work. And then for you with the YouTube side of things, which I'm trying to keep what works best for YouTube as the secondary thought in what I'm doing with this business and how I'm building it up. I'm trying to keep the primary thoughts of what actually works best for the heavy business if YouTube didn't exist, but also keep in mind what does work well for YouTube, because YouTube is a part of this. And the 2 trucks in that situation right there does work very well for YouTube, because that means more jobs I'm able to take on and going to take on, which means more videos. So back to the previous video where I talked about the fire and kind of losing everything moving up here, and none of the business plan coming up here working out how I was hoping it would, and having to 100% start from scratch on that. This setup here, minus that truck in the middle there, the heavy tow truck and the heavy haul truck were the goal from day one 5 years ago, and every decision I have made getting back up to this point has been with getting back to this goal in mind. This truck right here is what was able to get me back, I almost dropped the camera, was able to get me back into the heavy side of things from light duty towing. This truck right here with the Zacklift was able to get me into a heavy wrecker that still made sense to have, and financially, because I could detach and go pull that low bed. And now that's brought us to this truck here, which is about to take all of this back up a whole nother level to where it used to be back in California. Like, you guys have seen me buy and sell a lot of vehicles in the time of this YouTube channel, and trust me, that's just a fraction of what has gone on in the time of this company. That upsets a lot of people, because a lot of people in that world get much more of, I don't know if an emotional attachment is the right word, but they get very attached to what they see, like the original track Jeep and stuff like that, and I see it all as a financial attachment. I'm basing the decision on what makes financial sense to get back to achieving that goal that has been in my head the whole time. So emotions play no part of it. Goals and steps to get there are where all the decisions have been made. And so far, every single vehicle that you have seen me buy and sell and go through and work through in this channel, I have sold every single one for more than I bought it for, and I used it to make money in my business in between. So every one of those vehicles was a stair step to building back to this, plus the piece that isn't here yet. And emotional attachment, and what people on YouTube, I know a lot of people mean the best, but they do not know the goals in my head or see the entire picture of what's going on. But none of that stuff comes into play in those decisions. It is what will get me to achieving those goals of where I want my business to be and what I want to do. So that's why we've made the decisions that we have. And I mean, really, and I don't mean this in like a cocky toot my own horn type of way at all, but I think 5 years to go from absolute back to zero, literally pile of ashes, to what I have now and where I'm at now, in a brand new state where I had no contacts, no customers, anything like that, is a pretty good accomplishment. And that's why I kind of have to laugh at the people with the comments of what I should be doing and how I should have done something, when they have no idea what my actual goals are and what I was doing to get to those goals. So yeah, in all reality, I'm pretty happy with what I've done in the time that I've done it. And again, that is a me thing for me, not a to toot my own horn to you thing. I walked all the way over to this trailer to explain this for that next part, but then I went off on the little deal and walked way back over there before I did, so we're back now. So this trailer, I mentioned probably selling it in that video, and I don't know if I'm going to do that now, because with the new one that's coming for that truck, this trailer and that new trailer might be a very good pair for that truck to swap back and forth between to cover a lot of different bases. There is going to be a gap in between as far as stuff that's too big for this trailer, but also is way overkill using the other trailer for. But this is actually a really great trailer for a lot of that smaller to mid-size stuff. In Oregon, under my annual permits, I can legally put 58,000 pounds on the deck of the trailer with the beast over there. What's funny is I can actually put more on this trailer with the other truck, the White Western Star, because it weighs 5,000 pounds less than the beast, but our weight limits that we can go to under annual permits are still the same. So if I needed to go above that, I could actually use the other truck with this trailer and be able to haul a little more. But when you get into big weights, then that truck becomes a restriction and the beast is the one that's more capable. I know it's stupid, but that's how it works. So 58,000 pounds I could put on the deck of this trailer, which is a good bit of weight. It's a good decent amount of machines that this thing can haul. And the beauty of this trailer is, one, it's got that engine right there where it's fully self-contained, runs its own hydraulics, so you don't need ramps like that truck has or a PTO like either of the ones do. You can literally hook this trailer to any fifth wheel tractor out there and use it, which is absolutely great, the versatility. I say I needed to rent a truck or borrow a truck for some reason, doesn't matter what it is, this trailer can pull it. The other beauty of this trailer is it's long enough but also short enough. It's long enough to be perfectly useful, short enough from absolute front tip to tail tip. This trailer is 40 feet. And in Oregon, a lot of the length restricted roads have an exemption in them, as the length restriction is such and such feet unless the trailer is 40 feet or less, then the length restriction goes away. So even if you're over the length restriction, if you're pulling this trailer, you're not bound by the length restriction. So that's another huge advantage to it. A final one is this trailer only weighs 14,400 pounds. It is incredibly lightweight. It's a 35-ton capacity trailer as far as what it's rated to hold, not legally on weights, what the trailer is physically rated for. It's 35-ton trailer that only weighs 14,500 pounds. So something like I just did going to California, where I'm putting multiple pieces on, because as soon as you put multiple pieces, all your permits go out the window and you have to be legal weights. This trailer is very light. So if you're putting multiple pieces on and going somewhere long distance, the lightweight of this trailer actually allows you to haul quite a bit more than a heavier trailer like I was talking about, maybe getting a triaxle. Well, the triaxle trailers, which would be like a 50-ton trailer, you add an extra axles, everything's thicker and heavier because it's a 50-ton trailer instead of a 35. Those trailers are so much heavier that when you start loading multiple pieces, you're actually far more limited on what you can haul because you're still limited to the legal weight limit for everything. Whereas with this one, we were, even with that super heavy truck and this trailer and those two rock crusher pieces on there, were only 63,000 pounds. Nice, lightweight, breeze through all the scales load. It's another huge advantage to this trailer. So I think for now, I'm going to keep this trailer because I do really like it. It works well. It's in amazing shape. Looks really good now that David repainted it and I watched. And it's very handy for that type of stuff. I'm going to keep this one. When the new one shows up and we start kind of running both and swapping back and forth, we'll see if that gap between the two is really that big of a deal, or if it makes just more sense to keep this one that's so much better at the smaller stuff. Like I said, up to 58,000 pounds, which is a decent sized machine. And then having the new one that, yeah, putting the stuff that's just over that size on the big one is kind of going to be overkill, but I think it'll make sense. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is why I don't just hire drivers for these trucks and send them to work. Because the work doesn't exist, and you can't do work that doesn't exist. Said we are nowhere near any major trucking shipping routes, very far from it. So there's simply not the amount of work to keep them busy full time. Therefore, it makes no sense to pay a driver full time to sit in the yard most of the time. But being able to jump back and forth between these two myself allows me to take on even more work that brings more revenue to my business, which is why it makes financial sense to have 2 trucks and only one me as a driver. And maybe one day it'll all make so much money that I can afford to get another one of these setups that can just sit in the yard and not have to worry about it making any money, because so much money is coming in elsewhere that it doesn't matter. But that's not where we're at right now. So for right now, this one can do very well for someone else. It actually is a perfect fit for their business. The person who's looking at it and kind of in the process is a very good fit for their business. So hopefully it works out really well for them and that whole deal goes through. And then I will continue with my plan, and you'll see where that goes as it comes. But like I said, another probably 4 or 5 videos after this one, you'll see. I'm not going to say the final piece to this puzzle because there is more that I have in mind, but the big piece to this puzzle.